Imagine waking up tomorrow and the price of gasoline has doubled overnight. Planes are grounded. Supply chains are collapsing. Stock markets are in free fall. Not because of a war, not because of a missile strike, because of one narrow strip of water, 21 miles wide, that Iran controls like a loaded gun, pointed at the throat of the entire world. This isn't a hypothetical. This is Iran's most powerful weapon, and it has never fired a single bullet. To understand Iran's oil weapon, you have to go back to 1979, the year the world changed, and almost nobody understood why. When the Islamic Revolution swept through Tehran, it didn't just overthrow a government. It re-engineered an entire geopolitical strategy, one built not on nuclear bombs or ground armies, but on something far more quietly devastating: oil dependency. Iran sits on the world's fourth-largest proven oil reserves. But more importantly, it sits beside the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point through which nearly 21% of the entire world's oil supply passes every single day. 21%. Every single day. And Iran has known for over 40 years that this strait is not just a waterway. It is a weapon. Look at the map. The Strait of Hormuz is a sliver of water between Iran and Oman, so narrow that large tankers must use shipping lanes, barely 2 miles wide. Every day between 17 and 21 million barrels of oil pass through this corridor. That is oil destined for Japan, South Korea, India, Europe, and critical fuel for U.S. military operations across the entire Indo-Pacific. Iran has spent billions preparing to close it. Underground missile silos, fast attack boat squadrons, naval mines stockpiled along the coast, drone swarms, anti-ship missile batteries buried into mountain rock. The U.S. Fifth Fleet is stationed in Bahrain, just across the water, specifically to keep this strait open. The two forces watch each other every single day. It is the most expensive, most dangerous staring contest in modern history. And it has been going on longer than most people alive today have been born. Iran doesn't need to fire a nuclear weapon to cripple America and Israel. It has something more surgical, more deniable, more terrifying. In May 2019, 4 oil tankers were sabotaged off the coast of the UAE. Holes were ripped into their hulls, just above the waterline. No explosion, no announcement, no claim of responsibility. 2 weeks later, 2 more tankers were attacked in the Gulf of Oman. One caught fire. Sailors fled into the sea. The message was not written in words. It was written in smoke and burning oil. The United States blamed Iran. Iran smiled and said nothing. Then, in September 2019, drone strikes hit Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq oil processing facility, the single most important oil installation on planet Earth. 5% of global oil supply was wiped offline in a single morning. Oil prices spiked 15% before the market could even process what had happened. Yemen's Houthis claimed the attack. American and Saudi intelligence traced the trajectory back to Iran. Iran denied it. Oil markets screamed, and the world got the message. For Israel, the oil weapon cuts even deeper. The Red Sea, the gateway through which Israeli trade flows to Asia, has been turned into a war zone by Iran's Houthi proxies in Yemen. Since 2023, over 100 commercial ships have been attacked, struck, or rerouted. Global shipping companies have abandoned the Red Sea entirely, adding thousands of miles to supply routes. Israel's southern port of Eilat, its only Red Sea gateway, has reported an 85% collapse in traffic. Not a single bomb was dropped on Israeli soil. Just Iran's proxy forces, armed with Iranian missiles, quietly strangling Israel's economic lifeline from 1,500 miles away. And here is the darkest part. This isn't war. Under international law, this is gray zone conflict. Deniable, untraceable, unpunishable. Iran has engineered a weapon that hurts you deeply and leaves no fingerprints. Here are the numbers. The mainstream headlines rarely show you together. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz for just 30 days, Economic models project a global oil price surge of up to 300%. The U.S. economy could lose over $1 trillion in GDP. European nations would face emergency rationing within weeks. Iran has rehearsed strait closure scenarios in military exercises. At least 7 times since 2008, the United States has spent an estimated $50 billion maintaining a military presence in the Gulf region every single year, largely to keep that one strait open. $50 billion. Every year for one body of water. In Iran, under maximum economic sanctions, with an economy a fraction of America's size, has held that leverage regardless. Because geography doesn't care about sanctions. The strait is still there. Iran is still there. Somewhere tonight, an oil tanker captain is crossing the Strait of Hormuz with his navigation lights off, hoping no one is watching. Somewhere, in a Tehran command center, a general is staring at radar screens, watching that same tanker pass. And somewhere in Washington, in Tel Aviv, in London and Tokyo, people in rooms with no windows are running the same calculations they have been running for 40 years. How do we keep the oil flowing? How much can we afford to provoke? And what happens if we get it wrong? The oil chokehold is not just a political strategy. It is a reminder that the modern world, with all its technology, all its satellites, all its aircraft carriers, is still dependent on ancient geology. On oil, on a waterway that was old before nations existed. Iran didn't create this vulnerability. But Iran understood it before almost anyone else did. And that understanding, quiet and patient and brutal, may be the most dangerous weapon of the 21st century. The world runs on oil, and oil runs through a 21-mile gap that one nation has decided to treat as its personal trigger. The question is no longer whether Iran will use this weapon again. The question is, how far are they willing to go? And perhaps, more quietly, terrifying, how far are we willing to let them? If this documentary opened your eyes to something the headlines don't tell you, share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe, because the next story goes even deeper. The world is not run by armies, it is run by chokepoints. And most people have never heard of them.